11 on the East Coast. I'm George Hudson. Thanks for tuning into the Savage World. Joined with me, as always, is Robbie Colbert. Robbie, looking good, flexing on him. How we doing this morning?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Repping a couple of causes, 13%, right? 13%. That's the African American community, man. It was at 13%. It's now dwindling down for a number of different reasons. And we've got to fight the power, baby. We got to fight the cause and get back on a positive step to get not only the numbers back up, but get the positivity in what we do, what we're about, what we can be in this world up. And then I'm repping VSU, where I graduated from, Virginia State University, where I pledged Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated. So I got my rep gear on today, baby. And we repping Savage Will 1111. This is going to be a monster teaching today, I believe. And I'm ready to jump on in there. You ready to do this?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. So today's episode is going to be No One is Untouchable.
Yeah. So no one's untouchable. So check it out. I was watching the ESPN ESPY Awards this weekend, George. And what was really cool about it is I saw some things that really resonated with me, but also were perfectly in alignment with what we're talking about today. No one is untouchable. And so I want to make this first bold statement behind No One is Untouchable. Make 4 first commitments, 4 first new commitments. Make 4 first new commitments. That's going to make some sense in just a minute. But nevertheless, I was watching the ESPN ESPYs. It was a great watch, right? My youngest son, believe it or not, was in their first commercial years and years ago. And he was one of the kids in the back of the bus. I was there on the shoot. They shot it in Maryland. It took about a week about a week. And one of the Dallas Cowboys was the older guy that ended up making the league, but they was chronicling what it takes for an athlete to make it to the league. So they showed the Pop Warner to high school, college, all the way up to the league, and it was pretty awesome. Under Armour was a big sponsor behind that. Gave out a lot of swag. I still have a lot of the swag that I received back then, but it felt really great to be a part of that. My son being a part of that, and to look at how that growth process for an athlete, just for a person in general, actually happens. It starts early on, and it graduates as you graduate. And there are things that you have to do along the way in order for you to be successful at anything. So no one's untouchable. It's all about changes. It's all about destiny. It's all about your journey and your new beginnings. And I believe everyone has to make consistently a change. And that has to have a frequency. It has to be periodical. It has to have a consistency so that you stay alive and you stay relevant just to your own self. You can never stop growing. You can never stop learning. You can never believe that just because you're going through what appears to be a failure, it is failure. No, that's just part of the process. It's part of the lesson. It's something that we all have to go through. I'm going to drop a 4x4 munchable on you right now. You need personal commitment to handle this journey. You need personal commitment to handle this journey. And mention 4 commitments. And the first commitment, I'm going to mention all 4 right now. First, you have to have an individual commitment. Second, you need to have a team commitment. Third, you need to have a cause commitment. And fourth, you have to have commitment itself, right? And so from these 4 pillars, you can embrace 4 inevitables because no one is untouchable. There will be a eulogy. At different places and points in your life, there's going to be a eulogy, or should be a eulogy, for every phase of your development. Number 2, there's going to be transition and transfiguration. You will have a transition, and it is going to transfigure you into something new. And then there's the third one right there. Start the new you. We're afraid sometimes to start our new you, but we have to start our new you, and there's going to be some new yous, and it's going to be new demands when these new yous begin. And then finally, you got to be willing to win with others. Let's just break this down real quick, and then I'm going to pass this thing over to you, George. First of all, reflection. Here's a reflection munchable. The test is about things that's going to happen in your life that aren't easy. They are qualifiers. They're going to qualify you for whether or not you are actually ready to receive or to move into this level of greatness that you want for your stuff. Now I'm going to take some examples from the ESPYs. For the individual, let's talk about Steph Curry. Not only was he the MC for that night, but he received some individual awards. And all season, I was watching all the individual awards and accolades that he was receiving all year long. So for some people that don't know him, didn't know about his work ethic, didn't know about all that he's gone through, this dude works hard. He works overtime. And before he won his first championship, they were literally considering getting rid of this dude because he had ankle problems, the whole 9 yards. He understood that. He put extra work in, put in extra dedication, extra time, extra training, comes back, he wins championships. And that wasn't easy because he had injuries along the way. It wasn't easy because he wasn't treated like a superstar. It wasn't easy. But now coming into this year, now that superstar pedigree, all that hard work caught up with him. That's the individual. You have to keep putting your work in, even when situations, trials, and circumstances don't seem good and favorable. Number two, Golden State. If you looked at that ESPY award, you would think it was the Golden State night, right? Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors got the team award. They were recognizing the four horsemen. I call them the four horsemen. That's Steph, that's Clay, that's Draymond, and Andre. They won the first championship a few years back, right? And they won a couple of them, and then they broke up the four horsemen, and the four horsemen got back together. Now they win again. They won not only with the four horsemen, but with the newbies. And they won with ownership, and they won with coaching and the culture. All things had to work together. They had to go through the ups and the downs. They had to go through the injuries, the losses, the failures, failing forward. They had the losing a season in their franchise history to get a number one draft pick, second in the draft pick, James Wiseman. But at the end of the day, if they had settled for the losses, if they had settled for and changed their culture of winning because they had the worst season, if they had changed their culture of winning because Klay Thompson got injured and was not available for 2.5 years, if they had changed their mindset and their ownership perception of how they are and who they really are, man, they would have never seen that day. James Wiseman will be playing for him next year. They look like the odds-in favorite simply because of that alone, because he hasn't played for almost 2 seasons since he's been drafted. Number three, remember, we talked about the individual, we talked about the team, and number three, we're talking about the cause. Dickie V has been stricken with cancer, and he's one of my all-time favorite broadcasters. He was affected by his friend Jim Valvano, right, with the V Award, and here it is. He's on there. He's stricken by cancer. He's going through this process. He's in his 80s. He's being challenged. And if you've seen him, if you haven't seen that ESPY Award, listen to this dude, man, as he goes on for almost 25 minutes and his share. But nevertheless, to me, he became almost superhero-like in his stand and for the cause to fight against cancer and all the money that's been raised since that inauguration of that foundation. It's nothing like being deeply touched by your own cause, living it and suffering through it and having to overcome because you've got hidden values on the inside and they're revealed. Your hidden value system, your worth is only revealed in what you lose, what you gain. So I'm going to tell you this quick story because I'm going to transfer this over to you. Man, I was rocking. God was blessing my life. I had the church. The church was growing. It was blowing up. We just got blessed. We were doing international travel. We were planting churches around the world. And then all of a sudden I got rear-ended. It's on TBN television. Was doing a little radio broadcasting. And all of a sudden I got rear-ended and everything, lost everything. Almost lost my entire family, lost everything, had a major setback, 4.5 years just to get my brain back together. So I continued to persevere. The value was hidden within. The value that was hidden within had to be revealed. And it kept showing me, you can win. You will get back up. You can survive this. You will do what you were intended to do, what you were purposed and built for, and you will get to that as long as you don't quit. So number 4, Dickie V, going back to Dickie V, we went from the individual, the team, the cause. Now let's look into the commitment to excellence. Dickie V, 48 years with ESPN, right? He was part of the team, igniting every individual player and individuals, coaches to become better, to be better. Dickie V brought broadcasting to a John Madden type status, real work, suffering, producing awareness, and that awareness bringing greater and greater things into his life and the life of other people. I need you to jump in there right now, George. Talk to me.
Yeah, so I think some of the things you're hitting at is basically no one's above hardship. No
No
one's
one.
above adversity. No one's above tough times. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. It's the phrase we've all heard. But it's the difference between the overachievers, the successful people in life, and the difference between people who are just kind of trying to make it by and struggling through life is their approach. It's the ability to lean into that adversity. It's the ability to find other a way to get around those obstacles. It's the ability to use your imagination to, okay, well, this is just part of the process. How do I grow? How do I adapt? How do I change? There's a book that I had a really good friend of mine, a great mentor, helped me learn that process through reading this book. It's called Who Moved My Cheese. It's
Yeah, that's a
basically
great
a
book.
little maze where these rats are running around, and it's fictional, and they're like, okay, well, we found this cheese stash, we're gonna stay here because it's easy, and we're not gonna look for any other ways to find cheese. But one day that cheese runs out, and then they're stuck without food, and they don't know where another source is. Whereas if they kind of would have been more adventurous, would have taken a leap out, would have remembered where that cheese was and say, yeah, we can come back to it, but hey, we need more cheese, we need to have another stash, we need to always be looking, and have another source in case we run out one day. We'll be able to lean on that other source of cheese, and it's kind of like a segue into having multiple streams of income, because nowadays no job really is secure.
That's right.
And to diversify yourself, to continue to learn, they're one of their famous or well-known quotes was always be learning, always be growing, always be studying. So it's this idea that we have to always be ready for this adversity to strike. And we can't blame our lack of success on adversity, because everyone goes through it. You're just settling for that cop out, for that reasoning to like why you're not successful and why somebody else is. The reason why that other person is because they didn't stop when that adversity came. They pushed through it. So like adversity is going to find everyone, and losing and failure is a necessity, and it's necessary to growth. And I think oftentimes you'd agree, most people think that in order to be successful, you just have to get lucky, or people just have success out of thin air. They don't really have to work for it, and it's easy. They were just naturally gifted. And a lot of people are naturally gifted, but the thing that makes Steph Curry great is not his natural gifting. It's his grind. It's his work ethic. It's his ability to lead and the desire to grow and become a leader, because we're not always born as a leader. We have to grow and develop and mature. And, we live in a world that's constantly changing. So we have to kind of change with it and, get with the times. And, people are not these cut and dry objects. So you have to learn to grow your relationships to, no one's perfect. So you're always adapting, always growing, always, shifting. We live on like a shifting sand almost, so you always have to be looking around like, hey, how can I better myself? How can I take it to the next level? How can I improve my business? What am I missing from my business? Because nothing is perfect. So you have to have that predisposition of like, okay, I have room to grow. I can get better. Where can I get better? How can I better reach my audience? How can I better, improve my content, whether it's social media? How can I improve this product? How can I improve customer outreach, customer support? What am I doing in the sales realm that I could improve upon? Is my pitch good? Can I work on it? How do I appeal to different people? And all these other things. So there's just always room to grow, and you always have to be on your toes, so to speak. And one thing you hit on was you have to become this new version of yourself. And Napoleon Hill talks about it in his books, that in order to change your results in life, you have to change yourself. You have to become the type of person that would have those results. So you have to become a new version of yourself,
Yep.
and you can't revert back to old habits and as much as possible, or else you're going to just have like some little successes and then just come back down. You're going to have a little success and come back down. I think that's why a lot of NFL players go broke, is they're not used to having those resources. So, you know, if they don't change their mindset and they just maintain like a high level of consumerism, then it's just going to translate. They're going to revert back to where they were at before, because eventually the money is going to run out.
Yeah.
And they're going to stop playing. And I think the average NFL career is like 2 years, maybe.
Yeah, 2.5.
So it's just, unless you change that mindset and start investing and having an investing mentality, and you start investing in assets and real estate and start a company, start a clothing brand, and do it right, then you're just going to revert back to like the hardwired programming that you have. You have to kind of change that reward mechanism to desire continual growth, because if you don't pour in your fountain, you're going to eventually run out of resources or run out of other things.
Man, this is great stuff, man. I'm loving what you're talking about right here. And that goes right on into this next phase of no one is untouchable. First, we talked about those 4 stages: the individual stage, that's stage 1; team stage, that's stage 2; the call stage is stage 3; and the commitment stage is stage 4. Now, there's a new stage and a new phase of this journey, which is what you just finished talking about. And that's the readiness for this new challenge of adversity, right? You just finished talking about all the planning and the flexing and creating those revenue and income streams that everybody needs to have, new tentacles that are flowing out of you in order to make your new part of your journey, that new part of your destiny work. And so I have these 4 new phases, right? This readiness. And it starts with this, the eulogy. You've got to eulogize, man. You got to put to rest your old self and this old phase, this other part of your journey. So the eulogy is like good news, like into the gospel, right? But it's like, here's what I've done, here's where I've been, right? I was giving you my eulogy about, and part of my testimony. These are the things that I've done, but that's my eulogy. This is what was done. It's dead now. Now you got to recognize the new journey, the impacts of the new journey. A game recognizing game. What's the new game that has to be played? So I have to be able to not only give and receive, but give flowers, but I have to receive flowers, right? I've had to learn how to receive flowers, and I've had to learn how to give more flowers and embrace the inevitability of the grace that I've had in my life to allow for the grave that has to occur for the facets of my life that have already gone on. I have to unplug the hardwiring, just like you said, and have someone listen to what I'm saying to make sure that whatever is a sticking place that's still alive from my past, it has the right to go ahead and die. And I give it the permission to go ahead and phase out. So I have to write my personal eulogy, and I have to include every bad habit, every bad association, every fear, and the lifestyle itself. And that includes the good that was accompanied with it as well. Doesn't mean that everything was bad, because that phase wasn't bad. It's actually a springboard and a catapult to something that's even better. The second thing is I've got to embrace the power of transition and transformation, new beginnings. It's never too late to understand your cause. It's never too late to go through what I call a transformation and transfiguration. It's therapeutic, actually. In that transformation that's going to bring about a transfiguration, there's a forming stage, there's a storming stage, there's a norming, there's a performing, and there's a transforming stage. We all go through that therapeutic model. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to affect us. You're forming into something new. And that's going to bring about a storm, because there's some old habits and some old ways and behaviors. There's some old triggers that have to be unhinged and removed out of your life. And then you're going to start to normalize, and that's going to come from the commitment to the new ideals. That's going to come from the commitment to the new value stream that you're creating for yourself, and everything that supports that, and the support that you're going to need from other people, the new team. And that's going to lend to you performing not only at the earliest stages, but performing at the later stages, and then transforming, right? You got to embrace the process of the new you. You've got to attack it. You've got to live it. You got to evolve with other people. You've got to involve other people. You got to get rid of old stuck places, habits, thoughts, repeats, those haunting parts of your familiar journeys, and let them go, right? Because they can lead to sickness. They can uncover overloads of stuff that's just burying you and stopping you from your new journey. Number three, get started on the new you, the new journey. Don't look back at your past. You get stuck justifying your emotions and your reasons. No,
Mm.
you got to stop. It's over. Go forward. Number eight, win. It's time to win. Cause others to win. Shout out the winners that's in your life. Invite people into your winning cause. Aggregate your pause of to greatness. Aggregate it. In other words, extend it around into many, many areas. But you still got to get after your new winning process. You got to involve some other people. You can't do it all by yourself because no one's untouchable. And if you try to do things that lend to greatness by, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt your forward progress because there are various cycles to change, and then you have to manifest. And in manifesting as a species, as a human being, man, that requires a lot of stuff. And in fact, when you go to the place that gets you closer to your actual purpose for being on this planet, you start to realize a couple of funny little things. Number one, you're not supposed to be your parents. You're not supposed to do it the way they did. You're not supposed to believe entirely like they did. There's some values you should definitely take. I believe that. But you're not supposed to be your parents. It's a funny insurance commercial about that, right? And this guy's walking, seen that commercial. That thing cracks
Yeah.
me up. But you're not your parents. We're not supposed to be. We're supposed to take the value system and let it be a value add, but not let it be the end all because you're uniquely and marvelously made. We're not supposed to just stay how we saw ourselves as children. So not only not just be your parents, but don't be a child. We've got to grow through those early phases of what we thought we wanted to be, and so we can grow into where we need to be. And there's a mantra for you. When you set out to do something great, it doesn't always go your way. This is the rest of your will, the resolve, your mettle. It's the test of your will, your resolve. It's the test of your mettle to see if you're qualified for that crown. You've got to come to that place. You know, you're supposed to be challenged to see that these uncomfortable and comfortable places, familiar and unfamiliar, comfort zone and non-comfort zone versions of yourself, they all help to lend to you being your best version. But you've got to get to the data. You've got to get to writing your stuff down. If you write it down, you can achieve it. And if you look at it honestly and get another pair of eyes on it besides your own, a pair of eyes that know you, a pair of eyes that don't know you, and a pair of eyes that come from any level of mentorship, then you can bring some balance and you can start becoming something amazing in your life. George, what you got?
Yeah, you hit on a lot. I got a good amount of talking points through those. And then it's so crazy because I'm actually at my dad's house, the house I grew up in Texas right now. And in driving here, just like, so many memories come to mind. I drove around my hometown, drove by the football field where I spent like hours,
Yeah,
out of every day practicing, working out, extra drills. In the summer, I'd come up by myself, do footwork and
nice.
running and all these other things, going by the baseball field, going by, where the cafeteria was and remembering who I sat and ate lunch with. And I had C lunch and all these other things. And
Right?
I had eighth period off. I would go by the donut shop sometimes, or I would run to, in my less health conscious days, would run by Taco Bell and get a burrito before practice and all these other things. And just like you said something about embracing your past but not getting stuck in your past,
Yeah,
and it's those sorts of things is like, we see these Facebook memories come up and it's like, here's your 5-year reel or 5-year flashback or whatever, and you look at yourself and you either recognize it or you don't, and or you're able to put yourself back in those shoes, but you can't become that person again. And
that's
that's
right.
my hope for everyone is in a better way. You look back and you're like, man, I don't recognize that person. I don't know. I've come so far. I used to do things that I wouldn't do now because such and such reason. It's like, whether it's personal growth or you just weren't conscious in your actions, just kind of going by the seat of your pants, like all
Yeah.
these other things is like, it's just crazy how even just coming home, all these memories come in. Like I'm going down I-20, which is where I would go back and forth between college and my house when I would go visit, and just where I was at during those moments of college and or high school, and who I was dating, or who my
Oh,
friends were, or just how I spent my time was dramatically different. And for the better, it's evolved to be better. And I feel like, you know, while you don't want to stay in the past, you have to embrace the past, and that's a moment for gratitude and praise, and be like, wow, I'm glad I am where I am. I've grown so much in certain areas. The me back then would not be, and do the things that I'm doing now in a good way. Um, so it just not getting bogged down by the past,
yeah,
but seeing it as yeah, it was part of the process. It was necessary. It was part of, I needed to be that person to experience the things I needed to experience, the
100%.
hardships, to grow into who I am now, because we don't really evolve without any sort of resistance. There's a guy that I really think about a lot. He has this what's called the Hegelian philosophy,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the Hegelian dialectic is that, you know, without resistance, there is no growth.
Hmm.
I mean, it falls right in line with what we're talking about. Also, the Hegelian dialectic, which has a negative component too, when you think about in terms of like politics or media,
Hmm.
like you just always have these two opposing forces, and there really
Tension.
is no in between. But to have that competition, it breeds growth. And to
Yep.
some extent, that's very, very true. Like
Yep.
in sports, that's great. Like competition pushes you, but ultimately you should push yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so having that opponent does make it more realistic. Like you have to work against an actual person or team or
Yeah.
group.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's a fact.
ultimately, the great people, like, the greats we've seen, like Kobe, Michael, Steph, anyone that achieves the above and beyond results, they're competing with themselves. Not, it
100%.
doesn't matter who's guarding them. It doesn't matter what team they're playing. It doesn't matter how many quarters or what quarter, what time of the game. They're just always, you know, digging deep. They just have that dog mentality, and it just, to be great, to push yourself to that new you have to adopt that, and you have to move past the old version of yourself, those past mistakes, because they were necessary. Like everyone makes mistakes. Everyone does things that
Everyone.
didn't necessarily intend to do, or that's not fun. It's just those that push through it and learn and grow and evolve, and make less and less mistakes, like make less of the same mistakes. Um, and then kind of just continue to evolve in an upward trajectory.
That's hot.
Those are the ones that really make it through. And um, the other thing you mentioned is getting started on the new you,
Yeah.
and some just tangible exercises and ways to that I feel like are really important. They're very little, but I think they have drastic effect.
Yeah.
Is no TV.
Yeah.
Like
I
we talk about this,
like it.
it's very simple, but like this programming, like the way we think is very important. And it's even, there's biblical ties to that. There's success principles embedded in that, but discovering and developing a new mindset, a
Yeah.
new renewing of the mind.
Yeah.
Specifically, it's in Romans 12,
Yep.
but it's essential in, growth, the growth process, in adopting new habits, in growing, your financial status, your mental status, your emotional health, your physical health. You have to learn to outthink your obstacles.
Yep.
Like, okay, so I'm in at the gym, I'm maybe hitting bench press or something. Like I have to be like, okay, in order to be the next version of myself, I have to hit this. There's no way around it. Like I have to do the work. Um, and then so like instead of that TV, you plug in then, because you don't just sit and stare at the wall. You maybe you go for a walk and you read, do something less stimulating and more creative,
Yeah.
and then get that flow state going, and then you can plug that energy into your business, your
Yep.
physical fitness, your whatever, your hobbies or your family, and becoming a better husband, spouse, wife,
100%.
whatever. And just being more plugged into where you're at instead of, yeah, the imagination is cool and maybe the occasional movie is great, but this constant, plugging in and binge watching and all these other things, you're programming yourself just to be pleased without doing any work because you're being entertained, you're having that joy, you're having that happiness or that roller coaster of emotions, maybe depending on the show that you're watching, without actually doing anything. There's no action taking place. You're just plugged into the screen. So you can really damage your reward system by just you're experiencing life without doing anything.
That's hot.
So it's like a shortcut in a bad way. And my mom used to always say there are no shortcuts in life.
No shortcuts in life.
No success happens overnight. You have to put the work in. You have to be married. Effort is king. All these things.
Isn't that funny that our parents said the same things?
Yeah, it's weird.
Those are good value takeaways. Go ahead, man. Finish what you're saying.
From 3 different time zones, our parents were saying the same thing at us.
Same things.
40, 50 years apart.
Yeah, exactly. Those are those takeaways, man. Those timeless values that we keep from our parents. But in each one of those statements, they were releasing us into our own personal greatness, and they wanted us to have that, not to be like them, but to have that personal greatness, whatever that needed to look like.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful. We're supposed to challenge ourselves. I dig everything that you finished saying. Come out, whoever you are and wherever you are. No, right? There's a new version of you that's waiting for you, right? Napoleon Hill. I dig this concept that you just finished saying, man. I wrote that down. Out with the obstacles. Napoleon Hill has a book that's titled Out with the Devil, and pretty much is dealing with that same kind of concept, right? You've got to outwit those obstacles. You got to outwit the devil, the accusation that's always against your mind, the accusation that's always against your emotions and trying to polarize your emotions and your intellect. You've got to be smarter than that. And you've got to unplug, like you said, from the TV, read more, landscape, write, sit down with someone who knows you now. Not so much someone who knew you from the past, so they can tell you what they think they see, right? So that you can have an objective viewpoint of where you are, objective, somewhat subjective, all right? But nevertheless, it helps you in the grounding, right? And then you have to have affirmative speech. Here's a 4x4 munchable for you, 4x4 munchable. We're supposed to reach, preach, teach, and heal with understanding in order to embody success, both small and for great. Reach, preach, teach, heal, so we can understand and embody success at the small level as well as the great levels, whatever you define it as, right? So reach others. This is a big deal. And reaching others, you're also reaching yourself, because when you reach others, when you start to pursue this new you and this transformation, this transition into transfiguration and manifestation, you're going to be reaching for something that's greater than yourself. It's going to be some person that's already achieved something that you're after, or has some knowledge about something that you want to know more about, that's going to help you in your growth to becoming this new person. So you've got to reach, right? And then you got to do like we're doing a podcast, right? We're doing a podcast because we preach it. In other words, some people look at it as just purely being in a church or a synagogue, whatever. No. Preach is broadcast. See it in your mind's eye. Speak it out. Push, inspire, interrupts your thought processes. Destroy some old stuff and be an assistant to yourself and to others, right? Assist yourself and others. You can't become what you think about until you start thinking about it and you start speaking it out. Get it out there, man. Get it out there in the spirit realm. Get out there in the ether. Declare those things that be not as though they were. Go and arrest them. Pull them out. You know what I mean? Of just a dark thought place, and start putting some light on it, right? Then you got to teach. You reach one, teach one. Plan, develop, execute, duplicate, model, mentor, manage, motivate. Thank you, Stephen Covey, on model, mentor, manage, motivate. But I added manifest, because you do have to manifest in all these other things. And then there's got to be a healing process. Let it go. Let go your old you. Let go your old negative self-talk habits extremes, biases, prejudices, your predictable self for undermining. It served its purpose. It's over with now. Get rid of that. We've got to understand why we are allowed and accepted the journey that we're presently on. We've got to understand some cautions. We've got to understand some pause and what our successes need to look like. We don't know what our successes are until we write them down. What is a success going to look like? How are we going to celebrate these things? And then we've got to, like you said, hardware or hardwire ourselves to prove that we're capable of wearing the crown that we want to wear when we get to the end of that journey, that part of our journey. We've got to look at the battle scars, man. I did a message years ago on battle scars. There's some battle scars to prove the hardware that you have in your life, that I have in my life. I've got some battle scars. I got this cut right down my chin right here, coming out of a church service, man, during that season where people were attacking pastors and leaders. And this guy attacked me with a knife, man, cut me from the chin all the way up through the ear, cut my ear off and all that kind of stuff. Battle scars, man. I got battle scars for what I believe in and what I stand for. But at the end of the day, they're part of a testimony. They're part of something in the past. You grab that. You got to hold on to what you need to hold on to. Dismiss what it's all about because it's nothing more than a testimony. And now you got to move on. So reach, preach, teach, heal, right? Because you got to understand all of this was part of this journey, right? You got to let it go, understand, and embrace your new successes. Success is a tiny step journey, man. It's a tiny thing. It's not this big deal that we keep seeing. We keep seeing these big end results. But success, please reprogram. Success, the details of success is in the small, tiny wins. It's in the little itty bitty, minuscule wins. It's the place where you're committed and you're faithful to your actions, to do the one thing you promised yourself and not wanting to do it some days, but you promised that you would do that one thing. Let me tell you something. When you do that one little tiny thing, that is success. Celebrate it. Do the tiny until the tiny becomes the big, all the way to the hall of faith, all the way to the hall of fame. But you must have a life after the journey and understand that you have this life after your journey because of the successes along the way. And along the way, you said, you know what? There's some more me left to build. There's some more me left to do. There's some more me. So I need to interrupt even part of my journey that I'm on now because I need to open a gateway to the next part of my phase of living because it's equally as important as everything else. George, jump in there, man, and light us up.
One thing that came to mind was like people see the results of these highly successful people, whether it's wealth, whether it's fame, whatever, and they're like, man, those people just want more. They just want more things, and and they like demonize it, like it's bad,
Yeah.
especially in like Christian realms.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can't just have too. You can have too much, basically.
Yeah.
And what I think part of that is, yeah, there's some worshiping of like monetary and physical things that some people do. But
Yep.
what I think sometimes stems from that line of thinking is really just an excuse for why they can't have it,
There it is.
and maybe they wouldn't be able to handle it, and because like we were saying in some of the past episodes that I've said, the people that have all these great results, they're in love with the process. They're in
Yeah.
love with the work. They're in love with
Yeah.
the grind. It's the grind that is really brings the fruit. So, and that's why I think work is important, is to fall in love with the process of work, because when you fall in love with the process of work and not the result, then you already have the satisfaction. And if your work ethic is good, if your ladder is leaned against a building that's going to produce fruit, like you're going to have great results in life. And that's just a cherry on top. So it's this idea that those people that kind of demonize that is they're really just speaking out of their own experience. Like they don't necessarily understand why you do what you do. So
Right.
you have to unplug from that also. And you have to say not everybody's on board with what I'm doing.
Right.
But I still within the moral code still like want to love, serve, help people where I can. But even then, even when you have the right motivations, people are still going to look at you and tell you why you can't do it. They're going to tell you why they won't do it. They're going
That's
to
their
tell you why.
mindset.
Yeah, and you just can't adopt that. You have to unplug. Those can't be the people you're around a lot of the time. You're going to be around people that are negative. It's just part of it. That's another obstacle. There are people that dog on Steph Curry. You know, he was throwing out those subtle joke jabs at the ESPYs, you know. So it's, I believe it was like Grant Hill, and then he joked with
Right.
LeBron and all these
Right.
other things. Like, even at the highest level of success, you're still going to have people dog on you.
Yep.
And it's just part of the deal. You can't listen to it. It's like Joe Rogan says, he doesn't read the comments to his posts
Yeah.
because there's some, you know, 35-year-old boy in his mom's basement who's just dogging on you with a 10 o'clock shadow, like, you know, hasn't shaved in a week, you know, just has probably hasn't changed his clothes. His mom still does his laundry.
Yeah, he does
Just
his
sitting
laundry.
around
Yeah.
typing on a computer, telling
Yeah.
you about why you're not great, but really it's just a reflection of how they feel about themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Enslavement.
yeah, so it's, you just can't buy stock into what everyone says, and you have to have that mentor, that couple mentors, those friends that are right in par with you, have the same line of thinking. You also want to hear some different perspectives because there's always room to grow, but it's about that constructive growth that we talked
That's it.
about.
That's it.
It's not about that disbelief, the, you know, them speaking their lack of belief into your vision and into your goals and your dreams. No, I want somebody that's going to be a teammate. They're going to run alongside me, or they're going to help lead me to where I want to go. I'm going to find those people that have become successful in the categories I want in life, that have done it in a respectable way, that have, you know, a great impact on the community, that have a great, you know, mindset, and no, they're not perfect, but they strive to be one day, and that sort of thing. Because, um, you know, people look at success and they want to demonize it. Like, money is not a bad thing. It's the abuse of money. It's
Love of
using
it.
it and the love of money. That verse always gets misquoted. It's for the
Yep.
love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. You know, it's a hot button topic, but guns don't kill people. People kill people.
People.
It's not the tool that's bad. It's the intention. So,
Uh-huh. The
there
person.
are great people out there that do good things with their money, that lead people well, and
Tons of
money
great
is
people.
not scarce. Money is not scarce. It's not a scarce resource. It's not a limited resource, and
That's
there's
right.
enough out there for everyone. So
Yep.
it's, when you have that mentality, it's like, oh no, we're all going to get it. It's not me versus you. It's me versus me. It's you versus you. Now
Yep.
let's run together. Let's go get it. We can
We're
achieve
talking.
this goal together.
That's hot right there, man. You versus you. That's exactly correct, man. Listen, no one is untouchable. Everyone on this planet faces this life and death struggle of who we are, right? And it still revolves back to, as I was listening to you speaking about the individual and the team. You got to build a team around you for every phase of your journey. And then I think the one part that's grossly overlooked, we got to get back to a cause. What is your cause, right? So underline everything I have that I do. My cause is to be a change agent, be an agent of impact, right? And to cause for changing of the world, one person, one family at a time, whatever that impact needs to look like at whatever part of the phase in this journey that I'm involved in. But at the end of the day, the cause is to make for better, right? And I'm committed to that. So those are the four principles: individual, team, cause, and commitment. I'm committed to that. So no matter what I'm doing at one phase in my journey, I'm committed to that. Everybody's got to find those things, but those are things that help you keep moving. We stop moving sometimes because we don't have a cause. We forget who we are as individuals, identity. We don't have a team around us, support. We don't have a cause, loss of vision, right? And then we're not committed to anything because there's no vision. Where there's no vision, the people perish. And so that happens for every single person because no one's untouchable. But once we start breaking those things down into those simplistic ideals, simplistic principles, individual, team, cause, and commitment, then we can get somewhere because you win every time you train inside of those principles. You win every time your team is bringing you the support that you need. You win every time that your cause is driving you not to be mediocre. Your cause is driving you to be better than your best self. Every time you put and dismiss your past and your fears, every time you conquer your greatest enemy, which is you, you're a winner. Because the fight is not external. You were saying that your own ways. The fight is always internal. The
Mm-hmm.
devil is in the details. And the details is the biggest devil you ever face is going to be yourself, right? Men's enslavement of men is because of their personal fears, their greeds, and their insecurities, right? This is why they dominate. This is why they try to do the things that they do. The greatest enemy is not isolation from the fears of others, their forces, their kingdoms. The greatest enemy is the person themselves, you, right? So when you conquer you, the adversary of ease every day, or whether or not you're recognized for what small contributions you're making. Man, when you start to conquer those things, maybe one day, if you put your work in, if that's the end result and you're an athlete, you'll be on the ESPYs. Maybe you might be a winner. Even when I looked at the ESPYs, I told you it was a Golden State thing. Man, Klay Thompson was the comeback athlete of the year, but he spent 2.5 years on an injury. Two and
Mm-hmm.
a half years not being able to get back on the court. Like he said, he faced a whole lot of depression. He had to overcome it. He had a team. He faced a whole lot of, can I do this again? He had a team. He faced, can I be great with this team again? He had a cause. And he committed himself to practicing as much as he needed to practice in order to get back. And look at the payday, 2.5 years, nothing. Being in a winning organization for support with a winning culture. And they gave him a pay increase during his injury. Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a belief system in the person. And he stayed committed. They saw it. They saw the individual. They saw his commitment to team. They understood his commitment to cause. They saw him healing and understanding what was necessary to get to the next level. And in that commitment, they rewarded him. And as a result, he comes back and the Splash Brothers reunite, albeit they're not both perfectly healthy, but at the end of the day, they reunited and they get a ring. This is life, man. This is how it really works. These are things we can count on as long as we keep putting the right pieces together, becoming a part of the right touchables, so that when we come to that place where we realize that no one is untouchable, we too can conquer anything. Listen, my favorite book, my favorite hero of all times, Jesus the Christ of Nazareth, Yahshua. He had a team. When he started his ministry, what did he do? He formed a team. The first thing he did, he formed a team.
A
What's the
team
next
of
thing? He
misfits.
presented the cause. After he
Yeah.
presented the cause, he was committed to his death and to his resurrection. These are not young principles that are just coming up. This
Mm.
is some stuff that's been around forever and a day. George, drop the mic, baby. Do the mic drop, man.
Yeah, one of the great things I think also is just who he chose to put on his team. He put the most unlikely, unsuccessful, the most, they weren't educated, they weren't the brightest, they weren't the most brilliant, but he gave them a vision and he continued to lead them. And then they even, in denying Christ, like came back and then they had a vision. They, regrouped and kept moving forward and eventually went on to do really great things. And,
Yeah,
you know, unfortunately it was kind of hectic times, but they kind of paid the price for that. Like you said, you got injured and attacked for your beliefs and that sort of thing. And so even in the business and the growth and the success avenue, like that era or that area of life, you're going to face those attacks. It's going to be more internal, like we were saying. Um, but some of the other points I put down is instead of watching TV, reading, but also meditating, writing down goals, praying, plan the day, plan the week, plan the
yeah,
year, and get those mentors and those accountability partners in check. I think one of the best things, like my day feels so good when I plan it the night before. It's very little, but having that foresight
that's
just for what
huge.
tomorrow brings is going to set the stage for, you know, having a successful day, accomplishing your goals, being productive and so forth. Like even just setting my clothes out for the next day, even if
Yes.
I don't, even if I'm not like dressing up, dressing nice, dressing for the office, dressing for whatever, um, you're just putting action into your thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna wake up at 7, so I'm gonna set an alarm. I'm gonna put my phone across the room, so I have to get out of bed to go get it, and then I'm right by my clothes. So I'm gonna get dressed or hop in the shower real quick. It's just the little things, the little mindsets. Like, why am I putting my clothes out? Yeah, it's because I'm gonna wake up. I have things to do tomorrow. I hear this quote a lot. It's on floating around Instagram. Is if you were headed where I'm headed, you'd be up when I'm up, you know? Um, and why do you get up at 5 in the morning? Well, you don't get up at 5 in the morning because you're not headed where I'm headed. If you had the things to do, the people to see that I'm doing, like, you would do it too. And it's just that mentality that, like, hey, there's something to do every day. Every day the blessings are new, the mercy renews, like, you know,
100%.
every day is a new chance, and it's like a rebirth every day.
It
There's
is.
principles in that, and then every year or every week, every month, and planning that out, setting goals. And Elon Musk has a quote that he says, don't have a 5-year plan to become a millionaire. Do it in a 1-year plan, and I promise you'll be further down the road after 1 year than you would be if your goal was the 5-year
Years.
plan. So it's like, yeah, you might fail, but you'd be way further than you would be otherwise on the contrast. So it's all about just moving forward. There is no such thing as really a failure. The failure is stopping.
Yeah, that's it.
The failure is letting the obstacle win. That's it. And setting those goals and having the vision and just, yeah, you might not accomplish that goal today, but what does your today look like versus a year ago, versus that 5-year memory, versus that, whatever. And that's when we can use the past to benefit us and be like, okay, I'm not where I need to be, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But tomorrow is going to be better than today. And then I'm going to keep moving forward.
dude.
Um,
Talking about that moving forward real quick. I think I told you before we did this broadcast. This has been one of the most incredible weeks of my life. A lot of stuff, man. Family members in and out of the hospital, um, having to take a day off just because of the crush of being literal exhaustion because of so many other dynamics going on. Having this goal that I wanted to achieve, that for this space of time is not going to be achieved, but I made the right kind of en routes to make it happen. Literally being with family in the ER yesterday for like 6 hours out of the day, and then coming to this and in this messaging, having lived this piece of my life, no one is untouchable. This is a conquering moment because one, like I told you, when I'm done, I'm going to bed. I don't feel because I need to get the rest so that I can be more optimal to accomplish the finish. It's not how we start, it's how we finish. And so I want my finish to be great. But in order to do that, I have to understand that sometimes I have to put in a pause because if I don't put in that pause, then I'm not really truly embracing the right part of the challenge. And sometimes the right part of the challenge is to stop. Sometimes the right part of the challenge is to reevaluate. That's not negative. That's
mhm.
taking a proper evaluation of where you are right now and the impacts of where you are right now. If I keep pushing in my physical body, what I know is going on in there that's requiring me to rest, then I am hurting my long-term goal, right? I have to allow for this part of the process to go forward so I can have more energy and I can have more insight because I'm an energy dude, man. I'm all about positive energy. And so when I don't have that positive energy and I don't have that free flowing thought process because I've allowed for exhaustion to rob my life of the best gifts that I can provide at any time, then that's on me. That means I didn't embrace my challenge the right way. So along the way, we're not here to be supermen, but we're here to be smart about getting that process achieved, right? And sometimes you have to stop, you have to rest and evaluate. Even the greatest leaders of all times in their press to become the greatest of all time, currently being evaluated as such, they've had to stop and they've had to adjust and embrace their challenge. That's part of winning also. The adversity is the greatest qualifier for your greatness. And if adversity is the greatest qualifier for your greatness, then we've got to understand that at the advent of a new challenge of adversity, if you go at it without taking a minute to reevaluate where you are and what your tools are, like you just finished giving us a great list of tools. If we don't look at the tools we're entering this adversity season with, we're going to get crunched and we're going to think that what we're pursuing is wrong. No, you're pursuing it with the old data and
Mhm.
you're pursuing it with the old tools, and they are not qualified to take you in this new part of your journey. You've got to dismiss those. They have done the right thing, they have served you well, but you have got to move forward with the right stuff. I'll give this last piece right here because I heard you saying this and I love this one part. Love the grind. I love that. But you also have to love the process, learn the process, enjoy the process so that you can, in fact, trust the process. This is a leadership factory for genius. When you can get those things in your being and you can get those things in your mind, then you become your own leadership factory of genius. And everyone has a slice of genius. And it's funny, you'll know what you need to do and the pieces you need to add into your life in order for that greatness to emerge. It's funny how it'll come when you're ready. And when you allow it to come and just flow because you are ready, then after a little while and you put it in that time and you writing out that plan, like you said, set those goals, write out that plan, develop, execute, duplicate, replicate, my 5 principles for everything in life. Once you run those 5 principles out, man, and you start to execute on that model, then before you know it, you're doing. Remember, we talked about this. I saw you in Vegas and said, dude, I want you to do this podcast with me, right? And so this podcast is something I've been thinking about for years, right? I'm like, I'd like to
Mhm.
have me a co-host on my podcast. And then I see you and we talk, and I'm like, this dude right here, right? I've been talking to a lot of different people, and I'm like, no, 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 no. This dude right here, you, right? This is the perfect mix and blend. You'll get everything you need. The right pieces will come to you at the right time. You understand? Because
Mhm.
this is going to go somewhere. We're going to change lives, one person, one family at a time. And we're going to be agents of impact, 100%. And this podcast is going to revolutionize and unhinge and free and untether a lot of different people from cycles of destruction that's keeping them from their absolute greatness. And we're going to bring in and we're going to keep it real, man. And that's what I like about this thing. So we got to go through. My whole point behind that is this title, No One's Untouchable. I had to live it. Literally living this, and was in the ER last night. And I'm here today, like, no one's untouchable. This is the title. We gave the title what, last week?
Mhm.
And then we're living the title now, right?
Yeah.
So it's part of the process. No one's immune from it. So if you're going to do something great, listen, embrace the challenge. No one's going to escape being touched by situations and circumstances in your life, but we can win.
Mhm. Yeah. So I mean, so one of the things you hit on was sleep and like how the rest part and enjoying the process, like optimizing all the facets of life, like the rest, the stimulation, the work, like optimizing what you put in your body, all these things, in my opinion, that's why you can't, like, you got to use every tool in the book to help you succeed in any way that you can. In my opinion, it would be unwise not to. Like, if you say you value your body but you're out on the weekend, up super late, drinking a bunch, and just eating crap food, it just, in my opinion, that's not a recipe for success. I don't know anyone that does that on a regular basis, maybe aside from like musicians, rock stars. But then, living the rock star lifestyle only lasts so long, right? So at some point you gotta like tone it down, and you can still become or stay successful, but like you can't be, doing drugs and smoking and alcohol and abusing that, and then still like staying up all night and then going out and performing like that. We see people crash and burn and using that strategy all the time, and unfortunately that continues to happen. But um taking care of and controlling all the things that you can control, like what goes in your body, what goes in your mouth, what goes in your nose, like the air you breathe, like,
Yeah.
you know, who you're around, like if you're around like a smoker or something like that. And then what goes in your ears, what are you doing with your body? Are you, working out, exercising? No one's got to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you got to take care of what you have,
Right.
Are you eating an optimal diet for your body? Are you eating fake food? It blows my mind. My dad and I are very health inclined. Um, so we're always talking about, lately the topic is light, and we follow this doctor. His name's Jack Kruse. He was a neurosurgeon, but now he would call himself a mitochondriac, and he talks about how light is the most important thing. And if you talk to a health professional and they don't understand light and the physics of it,
Yeah.
then you really don't understand the fundamentals of how the body functions and how to optimize health. And he really breaks it down very, very simply, but then he extrapolates some very, very like complex things, because our bodies are very complex. The processes, the sleep cycle, all of these things we still don't fully understand.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, it's about how you digest light, whether you get it from the sun, or whether we're getting it from food, or whether we're getting it from the earth directly by standing barefoot on the ground. When I talk about this with people, it really, it's like there's a glaze over their eyes. They don't know what they're talking about. I sound like a hippie, but it's in reality, like the tree huggers had like
Yeah.
a really good
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
that when you connect directly with the natural earth, the earth's magnetic field offers
Yes.
healing benefits. So in turn, like okay, for me, George, how am I going to optimize my sleep? Therefore, I can wake up in a better mood. I can have more energy, because energy is king, and then, you even have to work when you don't have energy, but still, how can I optimize how I feel so I can best set myself up for success? So I sleep on a grounded mat, because there's ways to still stay in contact with the earth through, while being indoors. Because,
Sure.
if you have a wood floor or carpet, you can't stand on the ground and still be connected. If you have like most tiles do, or like a stained concrete floor, like you're still in the game. But I'm outside getting light as much as possible. I'm optimizing my diet for me. It might be extreme to you, but like optimize it for you. And then my diet didn't develop overnight. I've spent years crafting what I do. So most people see that success and they're like that 15 minutes of fame or whatever, but they don't see like the 10, 20 years prior to that, like that got you to exactly where you're at.
Exactly.
I spend my entire life perfecting a 15-minute task, but all you see is the 15-minute success. And then they're like, oh, well, I could do that. And they're like, well, maybe not.
Right.
So you have to optimize. It's almost like Avatar, not the blue people, the other one where he's like the earth, wind, fire, optimizing all the elements, all the chemistry of the body as best as you can, what you put in and consume, what you're putting out, how you speak, your verbiage, all these other things. And what you listen to and what you watch and the people you're around will really dictate what you're regurgitating.
That's right.
You are the sum of all your influences, whether that's environmental or biological. On the DNA level, we are our parents to some extent, but we are our own person, but we're also what our environment produces.
That's right.
And I always hear this quote is like, if you plant a flower in the dark, do you blame the flower or the environment? And then that is always used as some, excuse for why someone's not successful. And I'm like, well, the flower can't get up and walk. We can get up and walk. We're not, what makes us human is we have the to change our environment. So when that's used as an excuse to like, oh, that's why I'm not successful. Well, you create your environment. So not only are we the flower, but we're the sun, the darkness, where the flower is planted. We can get up and walk. We can decide to invest our energy in this or that, or in successful thought patterns or unsuccessful toxic thought patterns. So when that excuse is used for like why people are or aren't successful, and certainly environment is important, but you can choose your environment to some extent. And then as you gain resources, as you gain skills, your environment changes. you start to be around more skillful people. You start to be around more intelligent people. You start to be around people that can help you get to where you want to go. And um, I think the greatest, another tool, young people, 25 below, mid 20s, 30 can do to like surround themselves with successful, wealthy people is start going to events, networking events,
Yep.
political events, whichever side you lie on, because there's money there, there's networking there, there's resources there, and you have to become passionate about what you want to know and show people that you're worth their time. So
Yep.
you'll run into a Robbie Colbreth in Las Vegas and say, hey, I have this whole idea to start a podcast. I have a branding idea. I have a name. Like, hey, I want you to become a part of it. Because you saw in me that I had some skills, some knowledge, some desire, mainly, I think, is the passion to help and grow and
100%.
learn and help other people in that. So it's like we've hit it on many a times, but luck is when opportunity meets
Well, preparedness
preparation.
meets opportunity, or
Yeah.
as we phrase sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you just have to start really controlling what you can control and then don't worry about what you can't control.
And that's important, man. Again, when it comes to no one's untouchable, four principles, man, and they got some meat behind it. Individual, man, what is your individual desire? What do you have written down? What are you planning out? What are you giving a eulogy to because it's a part of your past? Team, what does your team look like? What does that support look like, right? Who's in your corner? Who's giving you the rah and also giving you good critique about where you are, what you're doing in accordance to what you said you was going to do. And part of your team, I think I wanted to bring this back up because we've talked about this multiple times. Get back to reading. Read 15. Late great Al Courtney taught me years ago, to 30 years ago. He's a self-made multimillionaire. He's talking about networking, right? And he says, Robbie, he says, read one book 15 minutes a day. That's it. He said, you'll finish an entire 200 plus page book in 1 month if you read 15 minutes a day. So, like I told you before, I started reading, and some of these books that you see back here, and tons of them over here, and boatloads of them that I gave away already, is because he impacted my life that way, and it just opened up my world of thought and belief and opens up energy streams. That's why I say when I'm done with this, I'm going to lay down because my energy is somewhat, but that's because I'm moving to another level and I'm moving into another realm, and I have to eulogize some other stuff. But at the end of the day, team, he was a part of my team. I was privileged enough to meet some people along the way that are billionaires and multimillionaires, and they allow me to put their cell phone on my phone. They said, here, give me your phone. This is my cell phone number. When you need something, call me, right? But I have not called them yet because I wanted to be right where we are, like you just finished speaking about, when the brand is ready, when all the other pieces are ready. Then I want to make that call, right? And then cause. What is the cause? Change people's lives, one person, one family at a time, be an agent of impact. This is something I've been living on for 30 plus years, right? I happen to be aligned with a company right now that wants to change people's lives. That's the reason for my alignment. But I've been preaching and teaching this, and it's on every document that I've had for years, from the time that my cousin gave me my first Bible and encouraged me to go ahead and change the world. He says, you want to change the world? No one believes you can. I said,
Mm.
I do. I said, I believe. He said, no, I believe also. So he wrote inside of the page of the Bible that he gave me, he's one of those believers. So he helped me with my cause, right? And I remember that. And then commitment. I'm committed to this cause. Ups, downs, places of pause where I know that that's the place you're supposed to reflect on things. I slow it down because I know I'm going to get to where I'm supposed to go as long as I take my time, right, and follow the commitment, but also push myself in that commitment, like you were talking about, Elon Musk. Hey, forget about the 5-year plan. Try to get it done in a year. That's me. Get it done in a year, and I'm further ahead. So let me end
Mm.
with this right here. Love the grind. I dig this part right here. You said it, man. I wrote it down because it's now part of my life. Trust the light. So I'm going to trust the light, baby. I mean, I try to get that light as much as possible. Stop the word try. I don't try. Get the light as much as possible. I need to get more. Trust the light. Number
Mhm.
3, love the process. Number 4, learn the process. Number 5, enjoy the process, right? And then at the end of the day, just want you all to know that this is a growth process. We're engaging people into learning more and more about the growth process that's necessary to bring about ultimate transformation at every stage of your life. And wherever you grow, there's more growth waiting on you. This phase of your growth is for this phase of your growth. It doesn't end with the human species at one phase of growth. We have so much more left for us to do and to accomplish in this world. This is Savage World 1111. It's the leadership factory for genius, and everyone has a slice of genius. So let's arise to the genius on the inside of us. George, take us home, baby.
I love it, man. I'm going to cut us off there. Another great episode. If you're listening live, we appreciate you. Give us a like and subscribe if you feel like this was impactful. And also, please share this with 3 or more friends. And stay tuned for next episode. And we look forward to, seeing you guys there.
Appreciate you, George. You're a boss, man. Love you, man.
I love you, man. Hope you have a good one. Rest easy.
Thank you, bro.